We are just days away from the start of 2026 spring training. When you're watching this, pitchers and catchers have probably already reported. I'm recording this. We're less than 2 weeks away from actual real spring training games being played. I'm super excited, and I thought it was the absolute perfect time to start a little bit of a three-part series here, previewing the expected opening day roster for the Toronto Blue Jays. I want to talk about who's going to be on the roster, first of all, what kind of role they're going to play, my expectations for them, and of course, we have some new faces to break down, some offseason acquisitions to address. We're going to start with the starting rotation, as you could tell from the title of the video. It's projected to be one of the best starting rotations in baseball, at least one of the best in the American League, so it should be a pretty fun video. We've got some old dogs to break down and some new exciting faces. It's a little bit of a new look rotation, so without any further ado, let me get into it and start with Kevin Gausman. Here we go. All right, I'm going to lead it off with the veteran of the staff, the guy who's been there for the last 4 seasons, really just the anchor of this rotation. It's Kevin Gausman. And it's hard to believe that we're entering year 5 of Kevin Gausman as a Blue Jay. This contract has absolutely flown by, and it's been honestly an absolutely unreal contract for the Blue Jays and for Gausman himself. I think that they've gotten everything out of it that they wanted to, short of hopefully one more really good season. And I think 2026 is going to be another good season for Gausman. The projections are a little bit conservative. Obviously, entering his age 35 season, a 4.02 ERA is higher than we've seen from in the past, and 2.9 FWAR is lower than we've come to expect from Kevin Gausman. But to be fair, he has pitched a ton. He's been over 175 innings in each of the last 5 seasons, which that's a lot of pitching. Guys really just are not that durable these days, and Kevin Gausman is one of those rare guys that has been able to stay healthy, something we know the Blue Jays really do value when they pick their starting pitchers, and we're going to get into that more later in this video as we look at the other guys. But that 175 innings in each of the last 5 seasons doesn't even include 30 and 2/3 extra innings in the playoffs last season. Obviously, he was great for the Jays, the 2.93 ERA. The Jays do not make it to the World Series in Game 7 of the World Series without Kevin Gausman being that guy every 4th game, and he was honestly just unreal. So yeah, like I do believe in Kevin Gausman, although I would be a little bit worried about how many miles are on that arm at this point in his career. And the key thing that I'm going to be watching, maybe not as much in spring training, like he does take a while to get going. Like he has always kind of been a slow starter in spring training, but it's going to be the fastball velo, right? He averaged 94.5 in 2025, which was good enough. That's where he needs to be. I would like to see him at 95. Obviously, age 35 season, we might not be getting a whole lot of that. But in his worst season in 2024, probably his worst season as a Blue Jay, he was only 93.9. So he lost more than half a tick on that fastball in 2024, picked it back up to 94.5 in 2025, and he was way better in 2025 than he was in 2024. So if Gausman can keep that fastball velo up in 2026, like who is to say that he doesn't have another really, really, really solid season in him in 2026, leading this Blue Jays pitching staff. All right, next up is Dylan Cease, and I would honestly call him the co-headliner of this rotation along with Kevin Gausman. He got signed to this big, really, really big 7-year, $210 million contract by the Blue Jays very early in the offseason, so it kind of has gone under the radar because it got done. The deal got done in November or early December at least, so it's been done for a while. The videos are across your feed by now of him throwing in spring training in the Dunedin complex, and they're very exciting. If you don't know Dylan Cease, super, super big arm. The fastball is going to average above 97 miles an hour. He's going to get a ton of swing and miss between that pitch at the top of the zone and the slider down and away from righties. Very sharp pitch. Going to get a lot of chase, a lot of swing and miss, a lot of strikeouts. He's also going to give up some homers, as we see with these guys who have these rising fastballs like Dylan Cease does. Think a little bit like a Max Scherzer type that we saw last year. Obviously, the stuff is still in his prime at just 30 years old going into 2026. So there are some very high hopes that Dylan Cease has the goods to be like a legit ace. Of course, we know that he's struggled with real statistics in the past. Okay, so the stuff's all there. He hasn't quite put it together because last year he had a 4.55 ERA across 168 innings pitched, despite like a huge 107 stuff plus. So like the stuff is all there, hasn't quite put it together. Too many walks, too many homers. There's a lot of hope that the Blue Jays can find or help him put it all together and really turn him into the pitcher that we know he can be. Maybe they're going to add a third pitch. There's been some rumors about a splitter or a changeup. So it'd be really interesting if we could see that. Another thing that could help Dylan Cease is coming over to the Blue Jays, who had the best defense in baseball according to fielding run value. That is on Baseball Savant. The Padres had the 18th best fielding run value in baseball according to Baseball Savant. So a big difference there. The Blue Jays, we know, are going to have a very, very strong outfield defense. We know Anthony Santander is not going to be playing most of the season. So while that maybe hurts the lineup, it helps the outfield defense a whole bunch. The one thing I want to see Dylan Cease improve on from seasons past, and especially last season, is I want to see him get deeper into games. He made 32 starts last year, of course, only 168 innings pitched. That's less than 5 1/3 innings per outing. I would like to see him get closer to 6 innings. If he does that, like I promise you, he will be a legit ace. I think he can keep runs off the board. Less walks, less homers, more innings this year. Obviously, that's the formula for every pitcher, but Dylan Cease has the stuff to get it done. I'm super excited to see him as a Blue Jay, not only in 2026, but in 2027 and beyond. It's hard to believe that we're talking about a guy that started last season in low A as such a big part of the 2026 big league rotation for the Blue Jays, but that's where we're at with Trey Yesavage. In a cup of coffee last season, he made 4 starts, had a 3.21 ERA, and obviously made, I think, 6 more starts in the playoffs and was really just so essential to the Blue Jays' run to Game 7 of the World Series. And when he pitched in the playoffs, he was so good. We know he's got that big game energy. He's got the goods to get it done in a big spot. I'm really excited to see what it looks like once he's made it around the league a couple of times. They've seen him. Was he getting by on a gimmick? I don't think so. But hey, maybe big league hitters figure him out, and he has to adjust back to the league. I'm really excited to see it. I'm excited to see how he handles the grind of a full 162. Obviously, a pitcher. I'd love to see him make 30, 32 starts. Get another 150 innings under his belt, maybe even more, 160, 170. Would love to see that out of Trey Yesavage. I do want to pump the brakes on the expectations on him a little bit. He is the Blue Jays' #1 prospect still, which seems a little bit silly to say because we know him so well. We've seen so much of him by now. He was covered until our faces were blue in the playoffs and at the end of the regular season. But the highest prospect evaluators on Trey Yesavage, we're calling him a 3rd starter, okay? And I look at these projections, and that's what I see here. 2.2 F4, 147 innings, 3.79 ERA. If that's Trey Yesavage's season, I'm very happy with that out of my 3rd starter. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit of a higher ceiling there. But I think Trey Yesavage maybe has that later in his career. For 2026, I think if he has a good season, like these projections on your screen are suggesting, I'd be very, very, very happy with that. The one thing I want to see from Trey Yesavage this year is when he's adjusting back to the league, because he's going to get hit at some point, how does he react to that? And is it by adding a 3rd/4th pitch? We know he has that slider, but it still runs arm slide. He only uses it against righties. I would love to see him add something that actually breaks to the glove hand side away from righties. I think that would be really, really huge for him. Obviously, it can't be like a negative pitch. It has to be somewhat deceptive. So that's the challenge there. Obviously, the high arm angle is going to be difficult enough for hitters, at least the first couple times around the league, and was very effective throughout the playoffs. So, hey, I think I love what I'm seeing out of Trey Yesavage. I'm super excited to see how he looks in spring training. And if he stays healthy, he's going to have the inside track to win Rookie of the Year. So always pretty excited when we get to watch a award campaign out of one of our Blue Jays. And Trey Yesavage, I think he's got the goods. I really am excited to see him this season. If you're one of those Blue Jays fans that went into hibernation after the World Series, you watched Game 7 and decided, hey, I need a little bit of a break from baseball. First of all, I cannot blame you. But second of all, you might not recognize this name. Cody Ponce is coming over to the Blue Jays from the KBO, and he's coming off of a monster season. He won the KBO MVP and the Cy Young in 2025. He last year was basically unhittable. 180 and 2/3 innings pitched, a 1.89 ERA, and a strikeout rate over 12.5. He was, dude, I'm telling you, Cody Ponce in the KBO was nasty. He was the best player in the league last year. He's a massive dude. He's 6'6". The fastball is going to be in the mid-90s. He spins the ball. But what really helped him put up that season is he added a nasty changeup, which really helped him, especially against lefties, diving down and away off the plate. We know the Blue Jays like their off-speed pitches. We've seen it with Kevin Gausman a whole bunch, and they really liked Eric Swanson, and Jeff Hoffman's a splitter guy. And when Bowden Francis was having his success, he was a splitter guy. We know the Blue Jays love their splitters. Obviously, without even mentioning Trey Yesavage, the last guy I just talked about. So Cody Ponce, a little bit similar with that changeup, not the exact same, like a different pitch, but the same concept, the same idea. He had a 3-year, $30 million contract from the Blue Jays, and he's going to slot in. Some were saying maybe bullpen, but I do like him to start personally. And with the Shane Bieber injury news, he does look like he's going to be slotting into the rotation fairly obviously. So as long as he stays healthy in spring training, I think he is a very, very good bet to start the year for the Blue Jays. And that's the best part about this Blue Jays rotation is that they can bring a guy into the team like Cody Ponce, and they're not asking for too much. They're not asking him to be a front end guy. They're asking him to be that fourth, fifth starter type. And when Shane Bieber's healthy, hey, maybe he's the guy that goes to the pen. If José Berríos, sorry for spoiling the next guy on this list, but if José Berríos is good, maybe Cody Ponce is the guy that goes to the pen, and he's the long man. So I think a lot of people are going to be excited to get their eyes on Cody Ponce, especially me included. I think Cody Ponce, I think the floor, first of all, is high enough where he can stick as a starter. And I think the ceiling is higher than that fifth rotation spot, even if it's not Cy Young level. But I think Cody Ponce could be a very, very important piece of this Blue Jays rotation in 2026, 2027, and 2029. Okay, the fifth starter that I expect to come north with the team when spring training is finally over and the major league season starts is José Berríos. And he's probably the toughest guy to talk about on this list so far, just mostly because there's the fewest reasons to be excited. We saw last year, like he got off to a decent start, had an ERA in the threes in the first half, looked like himself. But he finished with a 5.15 ERA in the second half. And he's going to need a very serious bounce back. We know last year, to finish up the season, he was not with the team in the World Series. There seemed to be a lot of friction there. He was not happy. There's been comments made from John Schneider and management about that. Seems like everybody's moved on. José Berríos has talked to the media about it, saying, hey, he wished he handled it a little bit differently. And I think the Jays kind of echo that sentiment, and maybe both parties could have handled it a little bit differently. Obviously, tensions do run high when this stuff happens. José Berríos is a very prideful guy. He prides himself on being able to make every start. And when he was left off the playoff roster, it's hard to blame him for being upset. Of course, I don't think there was many Blue Jays fans that were upset that he was left off the roster just based on the way he was pitching in 2025. And that's not to say that he can't bounce back in 2026, because we've seen him do it before. He was the worst pitcher in baseball in 2022, like by hits and runs given up. He had a 5.23 ERA in 2022. It was worth less than a win. And then each of the next two seasons, he was right back to his normal self, didn't miss any starts, had an ERA in the mid threes. He was very, very good in 23 and 24, and good to start 25. Just obviously, I think a lot of miles on that arm. He's kind of worn down. The stuff was not as sharp as it was, or as we've seen it be for most of his career, especially as a Blue Jay. We've seen José Berríos be very, very good, and we've seen him struggle a lot. And unfortunately, most recently, we've seen him struggle. So, with that being said, the bounce back is possible, and the Blue Jays, I'm not going to say that they need it, because he is going to be entering the season probably as their fifth starter behind all of the guys that I mentioned. The positive thing for Berríos is that he's earned himself some runway, because Shane Bieber, the next guy on this list, and I'm going to talk about him very briefly because we know he's hurt and he's not going to be joining the team until at least a couple weeks into the season. He's not going to be ready for opening day. So that gives José Berríos a serious opportunity to earn a job. The job is his to lose. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to be in the Blue Jays rotation to start the season. So I believe in José Berríos. I think he maybe is not going to be the one or two that you thought you were getting when you traded for him and when you signed this big, long extension that he's on right now. But I think he can be a very, very under the radar productive piece for the Blue Jays rotation in 2026. And finally, it's Shane Bieber. And as I talked about earlier, we know he's not going to be ready for the start of the season, so that's why I left him till last. He's got that forearm fatigue, still trying to recover from Tommy John surgery, less than 2 years out, and it makes sense now why he picked up that option. I think it's news that we were all kind of ready for. At least, I think a lot of people I was talking to were ready for this news. That's why he picked up this $12 million option, left money on the table if he was healthy. If he was healthy, he easily would have gotten more money than that in free agency. But he wanted the security. He wanted to come back, continue to rehab his arm with the Blue Jays, and obviously he probably had a great time pitching in the World Series. I'm sure a competitor like Shane Bieber absolutely loved that. So it makes a lot of sense why he picked up that option now that we know he's not 100% healthy. And personally, I'm not too concerned. I will be concerned if we get into May and we still don't really have a timeline on when we're going to see him. because if we're waiting until mid-May, June, like we're getting 2-3 months into the season, we still haven't seen Bieber, then it's going to be a frustrating little saga. But from the sounds of it, like he is in a throwing program. He is currently throwing. So I think we're a lot more optimistic than that. As long as his body continues to recover properly and bounce back, we're going to see Shane Bieber before too long. When we do see Shane Bieber on the mound, you know what you're going to get. He may not be that Cy Young level pitcher that we've seen him be earlier in his career, but he's going to be good. And part of the reason I'm not too concerned about his health and when he gets healthy is because he's never been really a stuffed guy. Like his fastball sits at just about 92. Obviously, he relies very heavily on command and location and how his pitches play off of one another. But like I'm not too concerned. He's not going to walk very many guys. He's going to get lots of ground balls. So I think Shane Bieber can really put this rotation over the top. Little mid-season acquisition, I guess, if he's not going to be there on opening day. And maybe he bumps someone out of the rotation, or maybe there's an injury that pops up in between now and when Bieber comes back, that he's able to fill a hole. So I think having Shane Bieber waiting in the wings is actually a sneaky, huge advantage for the Blue Jays. And I'm super excited to see what Shane Bieber has in store for this season when he does get healthy. And that's all I got for you for Blue Jays starting pitchers heading into 2026. It's a really good group. The 6 guys that I mentioned will be pitching the bulk of the innings in the starting rotation for the Jays, and they are a really good group. Of course, other guys will get starts. Hey, maybe this is the year we see a Ricky Tiedemann debut. Adam Macko debut could be on the table. Lazaro Estrada is a guy we saw last year. Of course, Eric Lauer is going to be in the big league bullpen. Keep an eye out for his name when I do the bullpen version of this video in a few days. And keep an eye out for the hitter version of this video. That's the one that's coming up next. We're going to break down the starting lineup. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I've got a lot of thoughts on this Blue Jays starting lineup, especially with the Anthony Santander injury news. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you're excited to see who you're most excited to see, and if you're excited to see anybody that I missed in this video. Check out the rest of J Center, and we'll talk to you guys soon.